And I want to bring up mistake number 6, which is the last one. And it's not doing solo practice. So this comes back to people who do a lot of mock interviews and think there's only value in working with other candidates. But I completely disagree with that. And for a few reasons. So the first reason is there's lots of friction to work with other people. Unless you're in a university environment where you can find lots of people that are practicing cases at the same time, then the friction is lower, but there's still friction. Like you need to be on the same schedule, right? You need to be in the same place, or at least on Zoom. You can't do it on public transport or, late at night or maybe too early in the morning or whatever. Yeah. And a lot of people aren't in a university environment full of candidates preparing at the same time. So one is lots of friction, which means lower frequency of opportunities to practice. So that's one thing. The other thing is it's very time consuming and low in efficiency. So what do I mean by this? In the time consumption thing is to get a case, you need to give a case. Yeah. So that usually ends up taking like 1.5 hours realistically to do one case. Yeah. And it's low in efficiency because sometimes what you need is a very quant-heavy case, for example. Yeah. Because you need to work on your case math. But you get a structuring heavy case without a lot of math. So in a sense, you just wasted the whole case, right? Or sometimes what you need is to improve your creativity, and maybe you have a couple brainstorming questions in the case, but in the same amount of time, you could have done 10 drills. Yeah. Right? So, and then focus just on the thing that you need the most. So if the thing that you need the most is learning to drive the case and deal with the situation of having another human interviewing you, then it's high efficiency. But that's like 10% of candidates at any point in time, right? 90% of the time, your weakness is another skill, is a specific skill. And then it's low efficiency.
Okay, so what do you mean by solo practice? If you got a beginner, a candidate that's a beginner right in front of you right now asking you, what's solo practice? How does that even work?
Good question. So let's say this beginner is just starting and they're learning estimations. Yeah. Which is one of the first things you should learn. One thing is to do an estimation with another person. And you need to do a couple of these to get the dynamic, right? To feel the, as you said, to feel the how it feels to do an interview where you're solving a problem, in this case, an estimation in front of another person. Yeah. Once you understand that on a deep level, like on a feeling level, it's more useful to get like 5 prompts, 5 estimation questions, and try to solve them. And the best way to do that is through a step-by-step format that we teach in the free course. Yeah. It's a 5-step approach that works for any estimation. It's better to just sit on your own and think through that and solve it on paper, maybe even talk out loud, which is the gold standard. Then just doing more estimations with other people who perhaps don't even know what an estimation is. Yeah. Another example, if you're struggling to create your own customized structures for cases, which will happen for everyone, basically. Yeah. Again, once you did a few cases and you realized, oh, I don't know how to create customized structures. I'm using rote learning. I've memorized a few frameworks and I'm just using that. I need to learn this. Guess what? You're not going to learn this by working with other candidates. And the reason is you don't know how to do it. And in a real, like even in a mock interview, you don't want to spend 20 minutes building a framework because you're wasting the other person's time, because you're under pressure, like they're looking at you, right? Yeah. They're probably not very patient with that. So it's best to practice this on separate. So you get prompts, which are questions, so case questions, and you try to build your own structures. Again, this is going to be 100 times easier if you have the technique, which we teach in the free course, even for creating customized structures, and if you have good quality answer keys that explain, like, not only give you a good answer, but also explain why each piece is where it is and how it could vary.
I think that there's a very concrete example for this that candidates will understand even if they haven't even started. So imagine that, you want to learn estimations, like you said, market sizings. And you want to do, let's say you've figured out that you need to do 5 cases for this. On one hand, you can schedule 5 cases with 5 different mock interview partners who are probably going to be one on each day. So you're going to take 5 days to do that. And they're going to pick the cases. So those cases are most likely going to be, I can predict that for you, repetitive. So that's going to be the market size for bubblegum in the US, for dog food in the US, for cheese in the US.
How many hairdressers and gas stations?
Yeah, and in the end, you're going to feel good because it's going to feel like you can solve all of the cases, but they're just repetitive cases. And those partners are probably also beginners. They're not going to be able to give you good feedback, and you've taken 5 days.
Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, the gold standard, if you follow everything that we've talked about in this episode, you're going to get your free course, do our estimation module. So you're going to understand exactly what you need to do, what interviewers are testing, why, what are the skills to solve each problem that you might come up with. And you're going to get, 5 case prompts. You're going to get 3 drills in the free course, and you can find prompts elsewhere that might be good quality. Now you can evaluate that from now on.
Yeah.
And then you're going to do them in a 2 to 3 hour sitting. So that is maybe 6 hours of work, which you can cram into one day, and you've solved your estimation market sizing problem a lot better than you would have in the 5 days before.
Yeah, I agree. And there's also an additional factor for solo practice. So I've talked about friction. I've talked about that it's time consuming and that it's low efficiency.
Yeah.
To do only interviews with other people, right? So on parallel, solo practice is low friction. You do it whenever you want. You maybe need internet access, but not even that, right? It's not time consuming. You can do a drill in 5, 10, 20 minutes tops.
Yeah.
And it's high efficiency. You only work on what you need. Now, there's an additional factor, which is you should probably spend most of your time on your weaknesses, especially before your first round ready. Now, between the first round and the final round, there's a good argument to work on your strengths instead. But usually most people will focus on the thing that would get them rejected because it's hard enough to get to the bar, right? So if you don't have everything at the bar yet, you should work on your weaknesses. If everything is above the bar, then you can work on your strengths too. But so let's say you're working on your weaknesses. They're by definition hard for you, right?
Yeah.
Almost by definition. And if they're hard for you, you probably need to internalize some technique. Maybe you need to learn it. Maybe you know it already, but you haven't internalized it yet.
Yeah.
And because of that, you usually need more time to do that thing. So let's say it's creating a custom framework from scratch.
Yeah.
Right? I'm at a level that you can give me any case question right now, and I haven't prepared anything for this, but you can give me any case question right now, and I'll create an excellent custom structure as I speak.
Nice. We should do that in the podcast sometime.
Yeah.
Like a full episode of that.
A full episode with 20 case questions.
Yes.
Maybe we should do that. Okay.
We will.
But and that's fine. So I don't need solo practice for that. Right? I could do solo practice. Let's say I would interview tomorrow at McKinsey. I could do that. I probably would. But I don't need that. Now, if you're not at this level, or if you're not even at the level of I take 2 minutes to create a good custom structure while thinking by myself, which is good enough for an interview. If you're not at this level yet, you should probably work by yourself, because maybe you take 10 minutes to create a structure.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to do that with another human being in front of you.
And your feedback, if you do, is going to be you're taking too long.
Exactly.
Rather than what you need, which is how good is your structure.
Exactly. So when you work solo, you have more time to work on your thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like if you're learning to play the guitar, let's say you play the guitar well, but not super well yet. And you're trying to learn a new song, maybe a riff for a song. Like
Yeah.
Guns N' Roses, you're learning the sick riffs that they do in Sweet Child O' Mine.
Uh-huh.
And you're learning that because you want to do that well.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably going to do that at home.
Yeah, you don't want an audience for that.
Probably watching a video of some guy teaching you how to do this, and you follow the steps, and then you work on your own for a while, and you're not in a hurry. Oh, I'm missing the tempo. Like, you're trying to get your fingers at the right place first.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe like, oh, I'm not playing as fast as they are. You're not worrying about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want an audience, even an audience of 1 or 2. Like, let's say you're hanging out with your friends. Like, no one wants to, like, to have to, you know, when you're with a friend who's playing the guitar and they're trying to learn something new, and then they're like taking 15 minutes to do it, and you're like, oh, just be done with it.
Yeah.
And or like, play that song that I like, you know.
Uh-huh.
So you probably don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same with cases. Now, you can do solo practice with a friend, but you're not doing a case. You're not doing a mock interview. You're doing the drill together. You can do that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's important to take the time to learn the things that you're not very good at.
Yeah.
Because then that's how you get good. And once you get good, you can get fast.
Mm-hmm.
And once you're good and fast, then you don't need the solo practice anymore. Then you can test it out on the field with mock interviews. And I think it's important to separate these two phases of learning,
Mm-hmm.
because if you try to put them together, you're not going to get good, and you might be fast, but it's not good, so it doesn't matter. So that's another argument for solo practice.